gone on here. Before I get to the details of Marshawn Lynch, first time you heard this story, what went through your mind? I'm curious.
Well, the first time I heard this story was actually I was sent a link to the video of the police walking up to him, the body camera footage. So I was just immediately looking at it from that perspective. I know that he hasn't had his blood testing done yet.
Right.
And I just analyzing the case as a prosecutor, an ex-prosecutor, now defense attorney, would analyze the case.
So what I'm hearing is, according to the report, that corrections officers restrained him in order to draw a blood sample at the Las Vegas jail. Their police are saying that Lynch did not require medical attention. He was arrested at around 8 a.m. I've seen the entire 30-minute video that Metro Police have posted. This is something that usually Metro Police don't do, right? They put it on their Twitter page, if I'm not mistaken, posting part, at least, of this arrest. What does that lead you to believe? Because this is not something that Metro does very often.
No, look, I'll call it what it is. They're just seeking some good publicity. Hey, we caught Marshawn Lynch in a DUI. Metro's been publicizing their traffic arrests and things that they've been doing around Las Vegas here and there, and they've been using Twitter to do it. But here with the Marshawn Lynch story, they actually tweeted like hashtag breaking news.
Yeah, that was weird. Like they're like a news channel or something, like a radio station, or that was weird.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say that like they shouldn't be doing that and they can't do that.
But it's not. It's go ahead and put it out
usual. There. But yeah, they don't normally do that. No. And now that Marshawn Lynch was arrested, now they are doing that.
I kind of have a problem with that because they're not TMZ, right? If you're a news organization, or you cover the news, whether it would be our show or any show, locally, nationally, that's different. That's what you do. But that's not what Metro should be doing. Just to give people a little bit more background, you know this, but I just want to give people a little background on kind of what took place there. Metro Police arrested Marshawn Lynch for suspicion of driving under the influence. This happened Tuesday morning of last week, not today. Lynch is facing a misdemeanor DUI and 3 other charges. Police are saying that they found him asleep in a parked car. Police said in their report that the 36-year-old was asleep behind the wheel of the car on a street north of the Las Vegas Strip near the Stratosphere. If you know what street I'm talking about, it's not exactly a street where you'd want to take your family and take a walk at night. Let's just leave it at that. They said the vehicle is a black sports car, which we could see in the video, turned off, noticeably dented. That's important. Missing the rims and tires on the driver's side front wheel. The wheels on the rear driver's side and the rim and tire on the front passenger side were also nearly detached as well. The body cam footage has been released, as we just mentioned. I saw 30 minutes of it. A Las Vegas police officer wrote in the arrest report that they identified Lynch in the driver's seat and that Lynch periodically fell asleep as he was being interviewed. You can see that in the video. The report described Lynch's eyes as bloodshot and watery. The police officer said he smelled alcohol in his breath and in the vehicle. Lynch was only wearing one shoe. He told police that he stole the vehicle, but said that he had not been drinking and that he was not using any drugs. Lynch, as I said, was charged with misdemeanor of driving under the influence, as well as failure to surrender proof of security, driving an unregistered vehicle, and failure to drive in a travel lane. He was released after posting a little over $3,000 bail. So this is a very complex case, and obviously I don't have, Thomas, anywhere near the expertise that you have when it comes to this stuff. What did you make of the actual video when you saw it?
Beast mode, not guilty.
Why?
Like, I'm just going to say this. As a prosecutor, they're looking at every case. They're going to make an offer to resolve every case and negotiate these cases. The plea deal that everybody hears about. Even in a capital murder case, you're going to make an offer. So when a DUI misdemeanor comes through the door, you look at the case and you go, is this a good, provable DUI case? Or is this a DUI case that's going to have some issues? And if it's going to have some issues, rather than chancing a not guilty at trial, we offer a plea deal to a reckless driving. That happens a lot. And I'll tell you, a bad DUI case for a prosecutor is when you have somebody who is not pulled over when they're driving. Police walk up on a car, a person sleeping in their driver's seat with the car off, an inoperable car, obviously. So he's not actually driving. I mean, failing to drive in a travel lane, he's not even driving, right?
So what's the law on that? If you're in a car, and let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you're drunk, but the car is turned off, you're parked inside the car. Let's just say you own the car, right? I understand this car was not registered. That's a misdemeanor.
So look, there's 2 ways you go about it. You're either driving under the influence or what they call actual physical control under the influence. And that's where a lot of people go, well, he obviously was doing donuts. He obviously crashed his car. He obviously did all these things. Well, the thing is, there's a spectrum and there's legal analysis that's applied. So Actual physical control, yeah. If you're sitting in your car and the car's on with the key in the ignition and it's in park, that is more towards you're going to be charged and convicted of a DUI. Now, if you're in your car and the car's on, but you're over in the passenger seat, that's a little bit weaker. If the car's off, but the key's in the ignition, there's all these little factors that come along. And also, let's say you get a lot of these cases. A good sleep at the wheel case that happens all the time. It would scare people. Is someone's asleep at the wheel, the car's in drive, their foot's on the brake, and they're at a red light, and they've cycled through like 10 times before somebody called 911. What is a bad case is when somebody's sleeping in a car, the car's off, it's inoperable, and there's no proof or witnesses that he was actually driving. Now, what people are saying is, well, there's 4,000 traffic cameras all over Vegas. Once they get the surveillance, he's going to be toast. I have never once in my entire career seen Metro or the DA's office be able to secure traffic camera footage for two reasons. Well, number one is these are live feed cameras all over Vegas. The news stations show they do not record because the data storage is just prohibitively costly. So there's a private company that does it, but they do it for profit. So the stuff's expensive and they don't even get the data from every camera. Mm-hmm. And so unless there's surveillance of a surrounding business, Metro, you're not going to have those traffic cameras. They don't even go get the surveillance from the surrounding business, though. If they did that right now in this case, it would only be because they went, oh, it's Marshawn Lynch. And so if anything, they might proceed harsher on Marshawn Lynch just because the case is in the media, even though the case has obvious issues, proof issues.
Well, here's my opinion. Now, that's based on the law, and what you said makes complete sense. Opinion is very different, and I understand that. My opinions, Marshawn Lynch is an idiot. First of all, why is your car not registered? Number one. Number two, you're driving a very expensive car. You're just looking to be pulled over. Number three, your car is dented. Clearly, you did this. Clearly, he was driving the car. Clearly, he is out of it. I am not buying the fact that he wasn't on something. Okay, he's falling asleep there. What is he doing in that area at 7 o'clock in the morning? His tires are out. Obviously, God knows what he hit, whether it was the side of the road, whatever. His tires are ready to fall off. There's dents in his car. Even though he doesn't seem to be completely drunk and slurring his words, police, clearly he's on something. Okay, I'm not buying the fact that he's just tired. No, I'm not buying that at all. He was there. He was up to no good. He clearly crashed the car and hit something. And what he did prior to that was clearly dangerous to the general public, period. Do I think he deserves to get a DUI? Yes. Do I think he's going to get a DUI based on your expertise and what you just said? Probably not. But
well, there's what you know, and there's what you can prove, right? And that's what we deal with in court. Look, he obviously was DUI. Anybody's going to look at the situation. He's not legally parked, as his attorneys tried to put it. He's actually at an angle. It looked like his car may have even skidded in there. The way it stopped right at the end, right at the end of the accident when the tires popped off. All that's there, but no one actually saw him driving. And that's a problem when you're in court on a DUI case.
Not even a witness, right? If a witness saw something, they could.
Oh, yeah. If you got a witness, right. Yeah. But from my understanding of this is there was not a 911 call that was placed in that someone saw him driving. So what do you think?
He probably didn't hit a car then. He probably hit the side of the road. Because if he hit a car, there would be a report on that. Somebody would have reported it, and then you could maybe put two and two together, right? So most likely he was just doing donuts or something, right? He was doing donuts, and most likely he hit the sidewalk or something. Is that probably?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a property damage thing. He was in his car. He was DUI, but there's no proof that he was actually driving the car. And when the police came up there, they're going to have to argue that he was in actual physical control. But this could be a guy, and the Rogers case in Nevada controls the analysis. There's no law against you being in your car while you're drunk. It's against driving. So the actual physical control thing all relates back to, did they prove that you were actually going to be driving, or you had to drive to that point? Now, there's a good argument for that here. And everything you said is what a prosecutor would say if they had to put this trial on. That being said, there's a lot of judges in this jurisdiction that would give a not guilty on these facts of the case without additional evidence of him driving. And when you're looking at that as a prosecutor, you're saying, let me get what I can out of this case. Let me put him on informal probation, have him take some classes, have him pay a fine. And that's what normally happens in this case. So if he's not treated that way, he's being treated harsher than what normally happens in the case. And that's only because it's a media case and the DA's office is a political office.
So forget about the fact that this is Marshawn Lynch. Forget about money and everything else surrounding this case, that it's a high profile case. If this was just a normal everyday person, as an attorney, you've been on both sides of this. Would you rather be on the prosecution? Would you rather be on the defense team, and why?
Oh, I would love to defend this case. I would hate this case as a prosecutor. This is a case as a prosecutor where you might get marching orders from up above to go, do not deal this because it's in the media. And we can't be seen sliding another NFL player a break, because that's the way the media is looking at Las Vegas right now. Like, all these NFL Raider players are getting cut breaks, when in reality, when you look at the facts of their cases and the situation, they weren't really treated any different than anybody else was. The facts didn't hold up to what was being alleged originally. You know, the airport connector accident, you know, the guy got his blood tested and he was
Josh Jacobs.
He was under the limit. That's why they didn't file on him. And they wouldn't have filed that case on any citizen if it came back under the limit, right? So here, as a prosecutor, you're looking at a media case on a misdemeanor DUI. You got your hands full with really serious cases where people are getting hurt and killed. And then you might get a call from up above to say, look, litigate this thing all the way and go to trial with it. And we get a not guilty at trial. That's better than us cutting a break in the eyes of the community.
I understand what you're saying. I think from an outsider looking in,
as a defense attorney?
Yeah. Well, I think the laws
There's so much to play with here.
Understood, but I think the laws need to change. There's too many people every day that die on the roads because of drunk drivers. And I understand, professionally speaking, you're describing the laws, and I agree with you. What you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. I don't have the knowledge you have, but yeah, I would probably rather defend him in this case too. Mainly speaking, because nobody saw him driving the vehicle. I think that's the number one thing here.
Well, here's the big thing. I mean, I'm a defense attorney now.
Mm-hmm.
Defense attorneys, how often are you handed a case where there is no defense? Right. There are no issues in the case to litigate. Right. The facts are horrendous. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you still have to provide a defense in those cases. So whenever you have something really strong to play around with, especially a case like this where it's looking like you could get a not guilty at trial, you know, you're gonna have some fun with that.
Why is it that they're not testing these people for driving? See, I believe the law, speaking of the laws, need to change. I believe that at any time a police officer should be allowed to give somebody some sort of breathalyzer test. And I believe it should be mandatory. And I believe if you don't agree to take a breathalyzer, you immediately assumption immediately that you're drunk, and you immediately get it. I really believe that. I know that a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's against our constitutional rights. You can't do that.
They actually used to do that. And yes, it was ruled unconstitutional,
which I disagree with. If you didn't do anything wrong, see, to me, it's kind of like going through a DUI checkpoint, right? Which, by the way, I've never had any problems with. Is it a little inconvenient? Sure. Does it save lives? Yes. Now, the law says, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm pretty sure I know this one, that if you go through a DUI checkpoint, you don't have to roll your window all the way down, and you do not have to answer questions. If they ask you, have you been drinking tonight, sir? Just a normal DUI checkpoint. You don't have to answer. You don't have to say one word. That's my understanding.
No, you never have to say anything to the police except above and beyond just identifying yourself. If they ask you for identification,
you have to show, even if you're not suspicious, they're not suspicious of a law that you broke. I thought in order to show ID, they have to have reasonable doubt to believe that you might have broken the law.
Well, there's a reasonable suspicion standard under.
You have to be detained, right?
Under Terry, and there's, they can stop you and ask for identification. But look, at a traffic checkpoint, there's a little bit different laws apply, and the Fourth Amendment is a little bit different in that regard, because checkpoints are approved. They are temporary seizures, right? They're not allowed to just detain you without any evidence either. Like you're saying, I can't ask you something unless I have suspicion. Well, they're not allowed to just stop you and detain you unless they have suspicion. But checkpoints are different, right? And those have been approved because there's a legitimate interest in stopping DUI. So these things, this limited detention and this limited questioning, it's okay.
But I see these YouTube videos of these clowns, right? Listen, there are bad cops out there. I understand that. But you have people videoing in their cars just trying to give police a hard time. Dude, if they ask you to roll down the window, you roll down the window. If you've got nothing to worry about.
Let me ask you this, though. With Marshawn Lynch, do you think he should be treated harsher than any average citizen would be?
No, I think that's unfair. I think if somebody has money and they're a celebrity, that does not mean that they should be treated any differently. So no, I do have a problem with that. I also have a problem with people that have money.
Well, there is one theory, though, of that it does make sense to treat him harsher, which is public deterrence.
Yeah,
because this misdemeanor DUI is actually in the news. People are paying attention. If you cut him a break, that makes people think that maybe you could get a break cut.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. I don't think we should be treating people differently because of the color of their skin. I don't believe we should be treating people differently because of their celebrity or not. That, to me, I think that's completely unfair. But I'm going to go the other route here. Marshawn Lynch has a lot of money. He's got celebrity attorneys, attorneys that I am not very fond of, but he's got a lot of money.
You know, these guys, so Chesnoff and Schoenfeld, those are his attorneys, and they represent Henry Ruggs, and they represented Josh Jacobs, and they represented Paris Hilton. Look, they get all the celebrities, but the thing with Chesnoff and Schoenfeld is it's cases like this where it's just the defense just falls into their lap. Right? Like this is a highly defensible case. You're just looking at it without more evidence than what they're showing in that video. Highly defensible case to where they can actually come out and make a colorable claim that our client was just legally parked. We feel that he's going to be vindicated at the end of this. He was not driving the vehicle. And this is the kind of stuff that falls into their lap. So they're going to come out looking really good at the end of this Marshawn Lynch
They will,
case.
but my point was, you had asked me, do I think, this celebrity should be treated more harsh? Based on, public opinion and a deterrent, I think is the word you used. And I think it's the other way. I think if you're a celebrity and you have a lot of money, you get treated a lot better by our Justice Department. I mean, I could think of two people, and I talk a lot about race and our Justice Department, and I talk about the courts, and we're going to talk about the FBI next segment. Do people who are minorities as a whole in this country treated the same as somebody who looks like me? No, probably not. But I'll also give you two people who are black who are treated differently, and it helped them because they're a celebrity and they have money. I'll give you two right now, two very high profile cases. O.J. Simpson, who I do believe is a double murderer, who got off, and Bill Cosby, who I know is a rapist, who is not in jail right now, raped probably dozens and dozens and dozens of women. But they got off because of who they are. O.J., money, celebrity. Bill Cosby, money, celebrity. Doesn't always work that way, right? Doesn't always work that way. But I can tell you right now, Kevin Spacey probably deserves to be behind bars. He's got a lot of money. He's got good representation. So I actually think it goes the other way. I think it's rare when we look at a celebrity and say, oh, that celebrity's being treated very differently. Look at what Jussie Smollett did. Look at all the public outcry. Look at that first case that was thrown out. That was because he was Jussie Smollett. Smollett should have been charged and should have been convicted in that first case. And the only reason why he was charged in the next trial, the only reason why he was because of public outcry, right? But Smollett would have been convicted that first time if he wasn't Jussie Smollett. I truly believe that. So I think more times than not, celebrities, mainly because they have money, not just because they're famous, are, get off a lot easier. So I think you can make the argument the other way when it comes to Marshawn Lynch. He has celebrity attorneys. They've been doing this for a long time. They hire, they cover the cases that are very high profile cases. And, he's got a lot of money and he can fight this. He can fight. He has endless money to do so. I mean, I would imagine. So I think if anything, it helps him. I do not believe that celebrities should be treated differently. And I go both ways on that one. They should be treated like you or me. But we know that's just not the way it works.
Well, look, a certain amount of people, especially in the justice courts here in the county courts, for misdemeanor DUIs, get reckless driving offers. Mm-hmm. A substantial amount of them do. And it's built around proof issues. And so he would fall, I'm telling you, as soon as that case is your desk, that's falling in the category of, if it were not Marshawn Lynch, this was just Joe Smith, all right, that's a reckless driving offer, especially if he doesn't have any priors, which I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either. Okay, last question. Let me ask you this in a nutshell. As the former Clark County DA and the former top prosecutor when it came to DUIs, in your professional opinion, what do you think happens in this Marshawn Lynch case?
Oh, he'll have a maybe $1,000 fine. Maybe they could even give him a $2,000 fine. They could raise it up to maybe even $3,000. And they'll have a requirement that he attends a victim impact panel where you listen to somebody talk about losing a loved one in a DUI accident. And then you also take a quick online 1-hour DUI class, kind of teaching you not to be DUI. It's supposed to be therapeutic, rehabilitative, and case closed. And he'll probably have those two classes done when he enters his plea, and he'll have the fine ready to be paid in court, and the case will be closed down to a reckless driving right there.
If that does happen, which you're probably right, I hope he learns his lesson. He could have killed somebody.
Were you a little surprised to see that it was Marshawn Lynch?
Yes.
Yes. Under the influence out there?
I was. I mean,
this is, I've never heard of him being,
he's the kind of guy that the only reason why he ever made headlines, obviously because being a wonderful football player, we all know he was a great player. Nobody's going to take that away from him. and his personality, right?
That cop on the he goes, "Hey, that's Marshawn Lynch." They go,
Yeah.
"Who's that?" He goes, "Man, he's running back, man. He just run everybody over."
I'm here so I won't get fined.
Yes, exactly. That's why we know Marshawn Lynch. I mean, besides being the wonderful player that he was, on top of the fact, I think of a guy like a Richard Sherman too, personalities, right? These guys are great players. Marshawn Lynch was a fantastic player.
Great player. And I'll tell you what, we'll never forget that last call that Pete Carroll made, not to hand the ball off to beast mode in the Super Bowl. Got picked.
I
won.
I remember
it was
that.
huge. Everybody, why? Yeah. How do you not hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch right there?
Well, I'll tell you what. I cannot believe Marshawn Lynch's attorneys are giving me the opportunity to do this, because I didn't think he was doing any interviews, but apparently they're giving me the opportunity to ask Marshawn Lynch one question. We're very fortunate here. I'm pushing the limits, and I appreciate his attorneys giving me the opportunity. Marshawn, I appreciate you coming on. Can you just be honest with us? You were drunk out of your mind. You were chasing women the early morning hours on Tuesday. You were drunk, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate his honesty. I appreciate Marshawn. Thank you, Marshawn. We wish you the best of luck.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Anyway, he's Thomas Moskal, the former DA at Clark County. I'm Brian Shapiro. I've been called worse. So